Welcome to Golden Fortune Leo, the corner of the universe where we strip away the glitter, roll up our sleeves, and talk about astrology the way it was meant to be understood, as a living language of energy, emotion, and evolution. I'm your longtime cosmic researcher, a humble translator between the stars above and the psychology below, and today we are diving into the November 2025 forecast for Leo, a month that feels less like a victory parade and more like a spiritual retreat hosted by the universe itself. You've spent most of this year proving your strength, your creativity, your ability to keep shining even when the lights dimmed. But now, Leo, the cosmos wants something very different from you. It wants your stillness. It wants your honesty. It wants your heart to take a long, deep breath and stop trying to roar its way through exhaustion. November opens like a velvet curtain over a dark, quiet stage. The spotlight softens. The noise fades. You, the lion, are no longer expected to perform. Instead, you're being guided to listen, to the soft hum of healing that's been echoing behind all your achievements. The universe is handing you a rare gift this month, a grand water trine, a perfect triangular harmony between Saturn, Jupiter, and a chorus of other planets, Venus, Mercury, the Sun, and the new moon, all moving through the most emotional corners of your chart. Think of it as a divine plumbing repair. For years, feelings have been trapped like rainwater in a closed pipe. Now, the heavens twist the valve, and everything starts flowing again. It's not chaos. It's cleansing. I like to call this setup a divine trine spa day for your soul. The kind where the massage therapist is Saturn, the aromatherapy is Venus, and Jupiter plays soft jazz in the background. And yes, before you roll your eyes, this healing isn't the dramatic kind. It's not the kind that makes you cry in grocery aisles or send cryptic texts to your ex. This is quiet alchemy, the kind of transformation that happens when your body finally stops fighting the storm and allows the sunlight to seep back in. You might wake up one morning and realize the old resentment simply evaporated. Or that your anxiety, once buzzing like a mosquito, is suddenly silent. That's not coincidence. That's the inner circuitry of your energy being rewired. This trine is no small thing, Leo. It stretches across your 4th, 8th, and 12th houses, the emotional basement, the psychological attic, and the mystical sky of your being. These are not public spaces. No one else will see the renovations happening here. You might not even see them yourself. But you'll feel them, like a room that suddenly smells cleaner, lighter. The 4th house speaks to your childhood, the roots that shaped you, the 8th to your ability to release control, to die and be reborn emotionally, and the 12th to your connection with the invisible, intuition, dreams, divine guidance. When these 3 houses sing in harmony, something miraculous happens, forgiveness becomes effortless. Pain starts to dissolve without argument. It's messy, yes, but it's also magnificent. Leos are famously generous. You give until your roar cracks. You protect your pride, your people, even when it drains you. You wear the crown and carry the world, often at the same time. But this month, the universe is rewriting that script. It's whispering, you've given enough for now. Sit down. Let the light serve you for a change. And I know, surrender doesn't come easily to a fixed fire sign. The idea of letting go sounds suspiciously like losing control. But healing, real healing, is never about control. It's about trust. You can't schedule it. You can't manage it. You can only allow it. If you find yourself tearing up for no reason, or feeling waves of nostalgia about things you thought you'd moved past, let it happen. It's not weakness. It's release. Maybe you'll suddenly remember a dream, a scent, a melody from years ago. Maybe you'll forgive someone who never asked for forgiveness, or realize the person you really needed to forgive was yourself. Your mind will try to analyze it, Is this closure? Is this shadow work? Is this emotional burnout? But it's simpler than that. It's your spirit unclenching after years of holding on too tightly. As someone who's studied astrology and psychology for decades, I can tell you, Leos often hide pain behind pride. You put on your best smile, fix everyone else's problems, and call it strength. But real strength is softer. It's the ability to admit, I'm tired. I need help. The cosmos agrees. That's why it's bringing this month's healing not through drama, but through grace. You don't have to chase it, it's chasing you. You don't have to roar to be heard, the universe already knows what you need. And if you're worried that taking this emotional nap will make you less productive or less powerful, think again. Even lions nap under the acacia tree in the heat of the day. Their rest isn't laziness, it's strategy. When they rise again, they move with precision, with purpose. That's what November is doing for you. It's pulling you out of constant doing so that when December arrives, you can return to creating, leading, loving, but from a place of peace, not performance. So, welcome to Golden Fortune Leo. Today's message is simple but profound. Healing is not a side quest. It's the main story. This month, your task isn't to chase success or prove your worth, it's to remember that you already shine without effort. The stars are rearranging themselves to remind you that even the mightiest hearts need to rest, that softness is not the opposite of power, and that true confidence begins where the armor finally falls away. Take the universe's invitation. Unplug. Breathe. Let yourself be human for a moment. Because this November, Leo, the universe isn't testing your strength, it's teaching you how to be whole again. Every so often, Leo, the universe takes your spotlight, dims it just enough for you to see what's been hiding behind it. November 2025 is that kind of month, less about applause, more about awareness. You're used to striding through life with a sense of grandeur and purpose, and that's fine, the world needs your courage. But the deeper journey now isn't outward. It's a descent, a slow, necessary walk through the corridors of your own psyche. The 8th house, the house of shadow, transformation, and emotional alchemy, has been activated, and it's asking for your undivided attention. Think of it as a psychological surgery scheduled by the cosmos, one that doesn't require anesthesia, just honesty. You might not love what rises to the surface, but you'll come out lighter, cleaner, more awake. For some Leos, this period feels like being haunted not by ghosts but by old versions of yourself, the child who was too responsible, the teenager who learned that smiling was safer than crying, the adult who mastered composure so well they forgot how to feel. Astrologically, the 8th house is never subtle. It demands that you stop pretending. It pulls up the sediment of unprocessed grief and generational guilt like a shovel scraping through river mud. You may suddenly remember patterns that have followed your family for decades: control, pride, sacrifice, and realize you've been carrying them like heirlooms. The Buddhist in me would tell you, suffering exists because of attachment. You've been gripping too tightly, Leo, to your identity, to your pain, to that illusion that strength means invulnerability. This month, those attachments soften. Life, in its infinite compassion, begins to untangle the knots for you. You're not being punished, you're being purified. Picture your magnificent mane, that symbol of pride and vitality. Now imagine all the dust, pollen, and battle ash it's collected over the years. No matter how glorious, it still needs a good shakeout. That's exactly what this cosmic cycle is doing. It's shaking your spirit clean, freeing you from the invisible heaviness you didn't even realize you'd been carrying. There's a sacred humor in this too. You might spend an afternoon decluttering your closet, thinking you're just being practical, and suddenly you're crying over an old jacket because it reminds you of who you were when you didn't know better. That's not breakdown, that's breakthrough. In my 20 years studying astrology and human behavior, I've seen this truth repeat like clockwork. Leos don't begin to heal until they stop trying to look strong. You can't fix emotional wounds with good posture and a confident smile. The minute you stop defending your vulnerability, it transforms into wisdom. And wisdom, my friend, looks good on you. You don't have to roar to prove you're brave. Sometimes silence is the loudest sound in the room. That quiet moment when you finally admit I don't have to fight this anymore is the moment you actually win. So if you feel more tender than usual this month, or if nostalgia catches you off guard, don't panic. You're not off your game, you're just in rehearsal for a more authentic performance. The real power of the lion has always been in the heart, not the claws. Take time to meet the parts of yourself you left behind, the dreamer, the artist, the one who believed that life could be gentle. They've been waiting patiently for you to notice them again. Then, around November 10th or 11th, Jupiter begins its retrograde in your 12th house, the hidden room of the soul. This is where dreams, intuition, and divine whispers live. When Jupiter, planet of wisdom, moves backward here, your inner world becomes luminous. Your intuition sharpens like a tuning fork. You may dream so vividly that you wake up with answers to questions you didn't even ask. You may sense loved ones who have passed, or feel unseen hands guiding you through ordinary moments. This is not isolation, it's divine companionship. The universe leans closer and says, I never left. The ones I call the chosen ones, those who have walked the lonely road of self-mastery, will feel this most intensely. You are being recalibrated for what's ahead. The year of triumph 2025 is right around the corner, and it will demand clarity, not clutter. Jupiter and Saturn are preparing to move into fire signs, restoring your natural rhythm of confidence and leadership. But before that light fully returns, there must be cleansing. The retrograde phase is spiritual therapy. It exposes habits of self-sabotage and those subtle addictions to suffering we all carry. Don't flinch when you recognize yours. Whether it's the urge to fix everyone's problems, the guilt you feel when you rest, or that internal voice whispering you're only worthy when you're shining, this is your chance to retire those scripts. You are valuable because you exist, not because you perform. This truth sounds simple, but for Leo, it's revolutionary. The world trained you to equate worth with visibility, but Jupiter is teaching a quieter kind of glory, the kind that hums beneath the skin, the kind that doesn't need witnesses. This is the lion resting under the stars, not roaring for the crowd. Now, I know all this sounds rather mystical, and it is, but it's also practical. Because Jupiter's influence turns reflection into revelation, whatever helps you listen inward will be powerful now. Meditation, journaling, painting, music, prayer, long walks without your phone, these aren't indulgences, they're tools. The curtain between you and the unseen is paper thin. If you've ever wanted to talk to your higher self, this is the moment it will answer back. And if you start noticing strange coincidences, repeated numbers, overheard phrases that echo your private thoughts, or songs on the radio that describe your exact mood, don't dismiss them. That's Jupiter's way of winking. You're not imagining it. This is what real alignment feels like, effortless, eerie, undeniable. Here's the humor in all of it, you've spent half your life trying to command the universe, and now it's quietly sending you signs through streetlights and Spotify. That's its way of saying, relax, I've got the steering wheel. So relax. The next few weeks are not about acceleration but recalibration. The best thing you can do for your destiny right now is nap, breathe, and let the divine Wi-Fi reconnect. So, Leo, embrace the shadows, they're not your enemies, they're your teachers. Let Jupiter's retrograde turn your solitude into sanctuary. You're being refined for something magnificent, not louder success, but deeper peace. And remember, even the lion, symbol of courage and command, must sometimes retreat into the tall grass to heal its wounds. This isn't defeat. It's preparation. Because when that fire energy returns, you'll rise not as who you were, but as who you were always meant to be, radiant, real, and ready to lead again. When Mercury decides to spin backward in the heavens, even the calmest angels probably double-check their schedules. Astrologers have written libraries about Mercury retrograde, but the truth is simpler and funnier. It's the universe's way of forcing us to reread the fine print of our own lives. Between November 9th and 15th, Mercury is moonwalking through Leo's 5th house, the territory of romance, creativity, and all things that make the heart race. Add Mars into the mix, and suddenly, life feels like a soap opera with a better soundtrack. Expect conversations that sizzle, not always politely. Your partner might announce, "We need to talk," right when you're just trying to enjoy your morning coffee. Take a breath, count to 5, and remember Mercury retrograde doesn't come to destroy relationships, it comes to reveal where truth has been hiding. If your children seem louder, more rebellious, or full of impossible questions, they're not challenging your authority, they're mirroring your own restless energy. What makes this particular retrograde fascinating is that it doesn't ask for dramatic confrontation, it asks for rediscovery. The 5th house is the playground of the Zodiac. It governs joy, laughter, flirting, and the arts, the parts of life that don't pay the bills but make life worth living. When Mercury moves backward here, it's as if the universe hands you a hall pass and says, "You've been too serious lately. Go play." You might find yourself picking up a paintbrush you abandoned years ago, reopening a half-finished song file, or replying to an old flame just to see if the spark still exists. And yes, that spark might be real, but it may also be the universe's way of testing how far you've evolved. Not every old connection deserves a sequel. Some were lessons dressed as lovers. Approach with curiosity, not expectation. For Leos who've been carrying the weight of adulthood too tightly, this is cosmic permission to remember what fun feels like. Laugh until it's inconvenient. Dance like no one's recording. Do something pointless, which, in spiritual terms, might be the most productive thing you can do. The 5th house is also your inner child's territory, and during Mercury's retrograde, that kid inside you starts banging on the door, shouting, "Hey! Remember me!" Don't ignore it. It's not immaturity, it's medicine. If you listen closely, that younger self will tell you exactly what joy you lost and how to reclaim it. Then, around the 20th, Mercury slides back into your 4th house, where a new moon joins the scene. This is the house of home, family, ancestry, and emotional foundations. Picture it as the basement of your psyche, the place where all the old boxes of memory are stored. Some of them contain treasures, others, unresolved arguments, and forgotten grief. Mercury retrograde here is like cleaning that basement with a flashlight and a sense of humor. Conversations long postponed might finally happen with parents, siblings, or even with that inner voice that sounds suspiciously like your mother. It's time to clear the emotional cobwebs, not with blame but with honesty. And of course, it wouldn't be Mercury retrograde without a few slapstick moments. Expect travel delays, computer crashes, and texts that mysteriously refuse to send. You can either rage about it or treat it like divine improv comedy. When your Wi-Fi collapses or your oven refuses to cooperate, consider it a cosmic cue that maybe, just maybe, you should sit down and have a real conversation with someone you love or with yourself. The universe often breaks our gadgets to repair our connections. This new moon opposite Uranus but trine Jupiter and Saturn brings the potential for a deep reset. You might renovate your actual home, move furniture, or declutter in a way that feels strangely emotional. More likely, though, the renovation is internally rearranging of your sense of belonging. You may notice ancestral patterns surfacing, like echoes from generations before you, fear of abandonment, scarcity, control, the belief that love must be earned. November is your chance to break those patterns, not with rebellion but with understanding. The Buddhist teaching applies beautifully here. You cannot heal the past by hating it, you heal it by seeing it clearly. When you revisit those family stories, ask not why did this happen to me, but what is this teaching me about love? Astrology, when read wisely, is never fatalistic. Mercury retrograde doesn't mean disaster, it means dialogue. It invites revision, not regret. You can think of it as life's editorial process, the universe marking your manuscript with gentle red ink, suggesting better phrasing for your relationships, your home life, your creative expression. You don't throw away the story, you just write it with more heart. Psychologically speaking, this period encourages Leo to balance fire with humility. You're a natural performer, but right now the stage lights dim so you can listen. True communication isn't about talking louder, it's about hearing deeper. If someone from your past reappears, whether a lover, a friend, or a family member, see it as an opportunity for closure or reconnection, not as proof that the past is repeating. The universe never repeats, it rehearses until we learn the line. Underneath all the retrograde noise, a quiet wisdom hums. Happiness doesn't need an audience. It needs authenticity. You don't have to prove that you're healed or perfect or enlightened, you just have to be willing to grow. Mercury retrograde, especially when paired with a new moon in your house of origins, asks you to become fluent in emotional honesty. It's about learning to say I love you without performance, to apologize without defense, to tell the truth even when it trembles. So, Leo, embrace the glitches, the awkward talks, the long overdue heart-to-hearts. Laugh when your plans fall apart, sometimes the divine joke is the point. You might not control the timing, but you can control your grace. By month's end, as Mercury steadies and the new moon energy unfolds, you'll find that the real renovation wasn't in your calendar or your living room, it was in your heart. And when that happens, even the stars can't help but applaud. There's a certain sound the universe makes when Saturn finally decides to move forward again. It's not a thunderclap, not a cosmic drum roll, but more like the faint click of a lock opening after years of patience. For Leos, that sound echoes through the 8th house, the psychological basement of your chart where your deepest fears and most private truths have been stored, rearranged, and sometimes set on fire. For the past 3 years, Saturn has been your relentless personal trainer in emotional endurance. It's dragged you through jungles of vulnerability, stripped illusions down to the bone, and demanded that you grow claws where once you only had trembling hands. Every time you thought the lesson was complete, Saturn leaned in and said, "One more round." And you, being a Leo, showed up again, sometimes reluctantly, sometimes dramatically, but always with courage. Now, at the close of November 2025, the planet of structure and karma finally turns direct, signaling that your final exam is graded, and congratulations, you passed. The thing about Saturn lessons is they never come with confetti. Instead, they arrive with silence and subtlety. You may not wake up feeling like a champion, but you will feel a weight lift, the kind that's been sitting on your chest for years, pressing quietly with the words "prove yourself." That pressure begins to fade. For many Leos, the shift will feel physical. Chronic tension dissolves. Sleep deepens. The body stops bracing for impact. You might even catch yourself smiling for no reason, and that's the real miracle, the lightness that returns after carrying emotional armor for too long. Saturn's retrograde has been about power, but not the flashy, stage-lit kind you usually prefer. It's been about learning that real power is invisible. It's the peace you feel when you finally understand that control was never the goal, clarity was. The 8th house rules all the places where our lives intertwine with others: shared finances, intimacy, vulnerability, trust. If those areas have felt heavy, entangled, or painfully slow to evolve, the tide now turns. Debts both financial and emotional begin to clear. People who once held authority over you start to lose their influence. Relationships that were built on imbalance start to recalibrate. Detachment replaces dependence, not as a cold withdrawal, but as liberation. The Buddhist would say, you stop grasping because you realize nothing truly belongs to you, and yet everything is connected. That's the paradox of freedom, and Leo, you've earned it. For years, Saturn has taught you resilience the hard way. It's made you sit with discomfort, confront your shadow, and stop trying to charm your way through pain. But now, with this direct motion, it rewards your discipline with stability. You're no longer at the mercy of your fears or other people's opinions. You're no longer driven by the terror of losing what you love. Instead, you're learning to trust that what is meant for you has already chosen you, and nothing can steal what's divinely aligned. This, right here, is the quiet evolution from survival to sovereignty. And then, just when you begin to enjoy the stillness, the fire returns. After weeks of watery emotions and deep reflection, Mars strides into Sagittarius, and by the 22nd, the Sun joins it. Suddenly the air crackles again. You can feel your pulse syncing with the rhythm of life. Energy, which had been leaking into introspection, floods back into motion. You'll notice it in your body first. Shoulders uncoil, your laughter grows louder, and your appetite for adventure reignites. After all that emotional spelunking, the lion is ready to stretch, shake off the dust, and chase the horizon again. It's not just motivation returning, it's vitality, that ineffable force that makes you feel alive in your bones. The universe is effectively saying, you've completed the inner work. Now go live like you mean it. Your creativity surges. Projects that stalled begin to find traction. If you're an artist, you'll feel inspiration burn through the fog like sunlight through morning mist. If you're a leader, your natural charisma glows brighter, but this time it's tempered with compassion. You've become the kind of powerful that doesn't shout. The metaphysics of this shift are profound. November was the cocoon, a place of transformation, dark and necessary. December is the wings. You're emerging with a different frequency, one that no longer runs on validation but on alignment. And when Jupiter and Saturn both move into fire signs in 2026, it won't just be another year for you, it will be your renaissance. The year of triumph 2025 will serve as the bridge between who you were and who you were meant to become. The trials of the past few years weren't delays, they were training. The universe was teaching you how to lead without losing yourself, how to shine without burning out. Still, there's a gentle warning woven into the fire's return: power without peace is hollow. Leo energy is inherently magnetic, but after so much inner work, the question shifts from how much can I achieve, to how deeply can I rest within what I've built. That's the true measure of growth. It's easy to roar when the crowd is cheering, it's harder and infinitely wiser to find satisfaction in silence. That's why this period of healing is sacred. It's not just about recovering energy, it's about learning the art of sustainable joy. As the month closes, you may notice a strange tranquility in your inner world. The storms that once defined you have quieted. Don't mistake this stillness for emptiness. Transformation often sounds like nothing happening. But beneath the calm, every cell in your body knows something monumental has shifted. You're no longer reacting to life, you're co-creating with it. That's maturity. That's mastery. So, if you find yourself unusually quiet this November, let it be. You're not being lazy or antisocial, you're simply integrating everything you've learned. If emotions surface, don't shove them back down. Observe them like a scientist studying weather patterns. The alchemy happening within you is real, even if the world can't see it yet. Sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is nothing at all, to stop forcing outcomes and allow divine timing to rearrange the pieces. And for those of you who identify as the chosen ones, the souls who've endured these cosmic endurance tests with patience and grace, this is the month your frequency upgrades. You're no longer being tested, you're being refined. The spiritual heavy lifting is done. Now comes integration, and with it, the discovery that the heart of a lion isn't just courage, it's compassion. One day soon, you'll look back on this season and realize it was the quiet turning point of your entire life. The month you stopped surviving and started healing. The moment you understood that healing isn't the ending of struggle, it's the beginning of wisdom. You'll see that Saturn never came to punish you, it came to crown you, but it had to make sure you were strong enough to wear that crown without letting it tilt your soul. So rest now, Leo. Let the fire rebuild you slowly. Let laughter return without guilt. Spend time with the people who see you without needing to be impressed. Watch a ridiculous comedy, take a trip, or just sit under the stars and remind yourself that not everything has to be profound to be divine. The universe is quietly polishing your crown while you sleep, and when December dawns, you'll rise not as a warrior returning from battle, but as a king or queen stepping into peace. You won't need to roar to command attention, your presence will do the talking. And that, my radiant lions, is the quiet victory of the year of triumph 2025, the triumph of having faced yourself and found love there. So as you head into this new chapter, live a little louder, laugh a little longer, and let your joy be the sermon. You've earned it. If this message speaks to your heart, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Golden Fortune Leo, because somewhere out there, another lion needs to hear that healing doesn't make you soft, it makes you unstoppable. Here's to your rebirth, to your peace, and to the fire that finally burns in harmony with your soul.